Hi, Steve Kunkel here, doing a screencast for the AutoCorrect2 app. I'm Kunkel321 on the forums and on GitHub. I'd like to focus today on the F function. And so if you've ever looked into the library of auto hotkey strings, the hotstring you probably noticed that they're all wrapped in these F functions. They're not standard default auto hotkey autocorrects. A standard default auto hotkey autocorrect looks like the one here that I'm selecting. It has the trigger and the replacement, and the double colons in there. You type trigger, and as soon as you press space or period or something, the trigger gets backspaced, blah, 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 and then replacement gets typed out automatically. So to format that into the F function, we're going to have the replacement is going to be the parameter. So F function, the F, and then the parentheses, and then since replacement is a string, it has to be in quotation marks. And the trigger, of course, just looks normally like a trigger. It doesn't have to be in quotations or anything. The B0 and the X are hot string options, and the reason those have to be in there is that the X, it's X for execute, and with AutoHotkey uh, hot strings, the X causes it to run the code instead of just typing straight text. So without the X option, this would actually type out the F and the parentheses and the quotation marks. So we don't want that. We want to actually look up that function and call the function. So that X has to be there in there. And then in a bit here, we'll also look at how the F function does the backspaces for us. That being the case, we also need the B0. That turns off the automatic backspacing of the trigger string that auto hotkey would automatically do. So okay, so why does the F function even exist? The first thing that caused this to come around was something that I call confounding mistypings. And an example of this is, first of all, look at this autocorrect item here, scirpt, mistyped as scirpt, gets changed to script. I think this is one of the items from the original 2007 autocorrect AHK. And uh, pretty unambiguous because you have to type out the whole word and for the replacement to happen, but it only corrects one word. The this one script, chirped. I've taken a letter off of the front and the end and made it into a word middle item with the options here, and that corrects like 146 different words, as you can see here in the hot string helper. Misspells scirpus, which is some kind of genus of botany. I don't know. So, anyways, I'm so so that's all good. That's all good. But there's a potential as we trim off more letters off of each end and make the replacement, smaller. It's nice because it replaces more words, but there's a potential for it accidentally getting triggered. Here's an example. Imagine I'm trying to type the sentence, "I heard the robin chirp," but as I'm typing it, I accidentally, leave out the letter H. So I just have CIRP. So now I heard the robin crip, right? So I call that a confounding mistyping because I've mistyped it in such a way that it triggers the wrong correction. So it confounds the issue. So again, that wouldn't happen with the original full whole word item, but again the whole word item only fixes one word. So you can decide which of those is better. The original AHK 2007 version has mostly whole word items, so probably fewer confounding mistypings. But the thing is, what happens when this I'm typing in my normal day-to-day routine, and I get my word instead of getting corrected, I hear the beep, so I know that my correction has happened, but my word gets even more messed up, instead of getting corrected. How do I how do I figure out which of my autocorrect items caused that so that I can go deal with it? Do I look through all my autocorrect items and try to figure out which? That would be pretty hard. And so I needed a way to be able to uh, see the most recent, um, capture the most recent correction and display it. So if you press Shift Alt 3 on here, there it is, last log trigger, crip. And so uh, auto hotkey has built-in A variables, and one of the A variables is this hotkey. As it turns out, it also works with hot strings, which is what this is, but it does not work with autocorrect hot strings. By turning off that autocorrect mechanism and making this a executed piece of script, this is no longer a quote-unquote autocorrect hot string, and so it allows us to capture that. And so again, Shift Alt F3 if you want to see that. It occurred to me shortly after that I might as well be logging these by appending them all to a log file, and then once we were doing that, it made sense to analyze the log file. And so let's see here. I think that's in the data folder, autocorrects log, and we'll do another screencast on the log analysis, but that's what the log looks like. And let's see here. So what am I talking about next? So that's the main reason that the thing was invented. But what happened, and you can read about this if you read through the posts in the forum. The forum thread has been going for about 2 years now. What I found is that even after capturing these confounding mistypings and analyzing them, it wasn't helping. I was still getting words messed up. And so I figured out what it was is input buffering problems. And so to look at the input buffering, let's do some examples. And so at the top of the library here, you'll see I have, so this is a default hot string. It's not wrapped in an F function. The one that's commented out above it is, let me zoom in a little bit more for you there. And so this is a word middle, and it has ZX, and you'll notice on your QWERTY keyboard that if you use your pinky finger and ring finger on your left hand, Z and X are right there, and then C and V are right up after those. So I just want to go to the bottom here, and if I type those, X, Z, X, C, V, right? So it's expanding that, and then I'm typing the other two. And so if I do this slowly and carefully, it does that pretty reliably. But what happens if I do it pretty quickly by strumming my fingers? Just do it a few times so you can see. So in theory, it should play back the hot string before executing the next keys. And auto hotkey by default does try to do that, but the different Windows apps can compete for the keyboard buffer. I don't really understand all of it. Lexicos tried to explain it to me on the forums, and Descolada, the forum user, has written some tutorials about it. But at any rate, what happens is you can see that the V and the C get mixed in with the output of the hot string. So those LLLL is playing, and the other strings are just kind of getting played sent in between those. And so what do you do with that? Because that's a problem. Because imagine this hot string I have up here is width, and they switch the I and the W, and and that's a multi-match item that corrects 81 items. But imagine if I'm typing notwithstanding, and then as I'm typing out, I type not and then with, and I mistype it and it corrects, and that's great. But then I'm typing standing, and I get letters from the ITH mixed in with the standing, that is not good. So that's going to mess me up as I'm trying to do my daily gig at work typing things, and I was seeing that happening with my library version of the hot strings that had all of these shortened multi-match items. I would get letters embedded in the wrong place, and I'd get space characters between words where they shouldn't go. And so, how to fix that? As it turned out, right after I had posted about how I was going to have to abandon the whole, the whole project, somebody came and saved me. It was Descolada. So Descolada made the InputBuffer class. And so what that does, and I don't fully understand how it works, but it caches those key presses and saves them in memory, and then plays them back after the hot string is done. And so I'm going to comment out this one, and then remove the comment from the same thing here. You'll see the zx, except this one is in the f function. And the f function uses, and by the way, here's the f function. If you go to the includes folder in the AutoCorrect2 download, you'll see autocorrect system. That's one of the include files. And in autocorrect system is near the bottom is the InputBuffer class by Descolada. And you can click on the link there to check out the forum post about it if you want. But up towards the top of this is the definition of the f function. What did I just do? I folded it. Here we go. And one of the first things it does is sets up that input buffer and calls that, and then it releases it right at the very end. So, but anyways, with the f function, let's see here. Sorry. I want hotstring library. So I've commented out the default hotstring version and commented in the version that uses the f function and therefore uses the input buffer. So let me restart. Control S. And I have it set up so that Control S actually restarts autocorrect2.ahk, which has the hotstring library included in it. So when I do that, this hotstring library that you're looking at gets reloaded into RAM. And so now, with that running, let's go back and do our test again. So slowly. Oops, hold on. Slowly, and quickly. Pretty reliable, right? It's working just as it should. And so, yeah. So that's a game changer. Just get rid of this. And let's see, what else do I want to say about this? The example here we've used, Descolada's InputBuffer class is the tool that's used. Oh, the underscore HS function is, if you follow that link to the post for where Descolada shared the InputBuffer class code, he actually has his own F function in the example code. Sorry, his is an HS function, and it works similarly. The big difference is that my version with the F function has the logging of the hot strings that are sent. And so if you're interested in that, definitely want the F function. If you're not interested in that logging, you might want to actually check out the HS version that Descolada made, because it actually supports, it has multiple parameters, and it supports some of the different autocorrect hot string options that are not supported by the F function. So what else was I going to say? Oh, the disable logging. So maybe you do want to use the F function, and that's fine, since it's tied in with the hot string helper app here. But you want to disable logging. You're just not interested in that. So what you can do is go to the exam button here, right-click that, and then go to the Configuration Settings Manager. Open that. And then in the AC system, which is the autocorrect system, is this file here. At the very top is Enable Logging. So you can open that. it'll be enabled by default, but you can turn it off, change it to a 0, and that will be that logging will all be turned off. It's also worth noting, what I want to say here, that, let's see here, let me go back to my file manager and look at, I want to open the tools folder. And in the tools folder is, for one thing, it has that settings manager that we were just in, but it also has defunctionizer. Is that, there it is, defunctionizer. I put an X in the beginning of mine so that it will be hidden from in those list of buttons. For default downloads from GitHub, I think it will probably show up in here, defunctionizer. So the defunctionizer will go through and it'll actually remove these function calls from all of the hot strings in the hotstring lib library here. I would recommend not defunctionizing. And the reason is because even if you don't want that logging feature, you probably do want that input buffering. So if you get rid of the F function altogether, you will no longer have the benefit of the input buffering from Descolada's class. So okay, so enough about that. So and then the last thing I want to talk about is rarification, and that's the process of only backspacing the the minimum number of characters that are required in order to change the autocorrect item. Called it rarification for lack of a better word. I didn't really know what to call it, but rarification is the process of becoming sparser or less dense. And so imagine this this hot string here. So this is a vanilla hot string, and a while back we added a bunch of common grammar corrections from Wikipedia, and this is one of them. So agree in principle, or sorry, just in principle. And the first one is the PAL, like a school principal, and it shouldn't be that. It should be the LE version. But by default, auto hotkey will backspace like a autocorrect hot string will backspace all of these. So however many backspaces that is, and then it'll type out the whole thing. But it's kind of redundant because the first part, agreement in prints, is the same on both. So really all you need to do is backspace twice and type LE. And so the F function code compares the trigger and the replacement, and it sees however many characters at the beginning are the same between the two. It removes those from the number of backspaces, and then only types out the needed characters. It's worth noting that a year or so ago, Lexicos did add this as a feature in the default AutoHotkey v2 hot strings, auto replace hot strings. I don't know what he calls the feature or if he calls it anything, but that is there. So the again, if you're not interested in the logging, you turn that off. If you're not interested in the rarification, and you don't need to be because that's in the default settings for AutoHotkey, and I believe that Descolada added it to his HS function as well. But you probably still want to use the input buffering. So okay, and what else? I guess I just want to mention that the F function. Remember that it's useful for autocorrects, but not for boilerplates. At least that's my theory. Because if I'm doing a boilerplate, for example, let's see what is ADD. If I'm typing this, then I naturally will pause ADD and then pause. So the issue of input buffering, it's not really doesn't matter. And then plus, I'm never going to accidentally type the wrong. Well, I mean, I guess I could accidentally type the wrong trigger string, but it's not something that happens so often that I really feel like there's a need to log it and analyze, why it was happening. And then, of course, the input buffering thing is not really an issue. So yeah, so I guess let's see. One more thing to look at here is with the hot string helper here. When you open up a so if we select an item and press the key, it'll detect that we want to make likely want to make an autocorrect item, and so it will check mark this make as F function checkbox by default. And you'll notice also the B0X up here. And uncheck this, those disappear. Right? So if you're one of those people that don't want to use the F function at all, then right-click on the exam, open Configuration Manager, go to, what is it, hotstring helper, and then make function by default. That there is the setting for checking this by default. So if you make this 0, then that will be unchecked by default. And then of course you can change the default autocorrect options and put whatever you want. Get rid of the B0 and the X. And I can't think of anything else. So I guess we'll finish there. This is for AutoCorrect2, Confounding 321. Thanks for watching.